Week 2 has wrapped up in the NFL, so today we're going to share our Week 2 overreactions and our best storylines.
All right, man, let's get right into it with one of the best offenses in the league, the New Orleans Saints, who surprised us, especially from what happened last year with all that check down to Kamara, bang, right? This year, that's what a lot of people had it kind of struggling, where to put them in the NFC South. So far, yes, the first game was against the Carolina Panthers. So, I would give them a grain of salt. But then what they did to one of the best defenses in the league, who Mike Zimmer proved that he's here after the Browns win, the Saints shellacked the Cowboys.
So I think they're off to the perfect start. Like 40 points in both of their games. They already have 90 points. And the thing with the Saints squad is the reason why it was so hard to assess is that because last year, they obviously made the offensive coordinator change from Carmichael to Kubiak, but it just felt like there was more fixing needed than just an OC change. But I guess I was completely wrong because just Clint Kubiak coming in from the 49ers is a massive part. And the other part is that Derek Carr is my best way to describe Derek Carr is that he's an old man Baker Mayfield in terms of we don't know what season he's going to play good and what season he's going to play bad. And right now, it's looking like it's going to be a good season for Derek Carr.
Like, I was high on Derek. High might not be the right word, but when he did leave Vegas, as a Colts fan that was going through that quarterback cycle, I was kind of like, go get Derek Carr, right? Not the last year of the Raiders going into the Saints, but the year before that, if he was up for trade. And that's why we were high on the Saints last year, right? And yeah, you're right. It was the offensive coordinator change, who happens to be Clint Kubiak, the son of Gary Kubiak. By the way, did you know that Gary Kubiak won the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning at Super Bowl 50? One of the brightest offensive minds that I hear around the NFL media, for example, Dan Orlovsky, for example. And then obviously you got the young guy coming in, like the Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan type thing. If Clint does a great job this year, he'll be getting head coaching shouts like a Ben Johnson, like what's the guy from Houston? Bobby Slowick over there. And yeah, like obviously he came in, changed the stuff around. They lost, even though he wasn't doing much last year with Michael Thomas, but the ball is being spread around a lot, right? Like, you're pissed off that Chris Olave is not getting the points in fantasy but Alvin Kamara is obviously having a resurgent year. Derek Carr is having a resurgent year. And then on top of that, if you pull up their schedule right here, so, like I said, the first game, yes, divisional game, but it's the Panthers. Let's be real. They're probably drafting a Shadur Sanders or whatever quarterback is going to be first overall next year because they already benched Bryce Young. The Cowboys are no joke. They shellacked them. This coming week, this is where it's going to be the true test, right? The first week, we didn't overreact because it was the Panthers. The Eagles, who are going to try to avenge their loss against the Falcons, which we're going to talk about in a second here. Then you have the Falcons, which is the big match in the division there. You have the Chiefs and you have the Bucs. That will determine who, for me, what truly the Saints are. If they end up going 4-1, 5-0, or whatever the case may be after all this, put them up there in the NFC tier with all the injuries around the league going on, especially in the NFC West.
So since you covered the first main part of why the Saints offense has been cooking, which is Kubiak, I'm going to get a little bit into Carr. And Derek Carr so far has 443 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, 77% completion percentage. Right. And that's all. And I think he has most attempts per completion as well. And that was obviously due to Rashid Shaheed's 2 touchdown bombs that he threw, one in week 1 and one in week 2. I think they're both 70 yarders as well. And the reason why Derek Carr is the old man Baker Mayfield is because one year he's good, next year is elite, next year he sucks. Right. You went through that cycle a little bit throughout his career. But I would say there's probably 3 years in his career where he actually was elite. The first one was 2016. Threw for 3,973 yards, led the Raiders to a 12-3 record, but got injured with a broken fibula in week 16. And they ultimately finished. The Raiders ultimately finished out with 12-4 record and losing in the first round of the playoffs. But in that time, he had 28 TDs, 6 interceptions as well. The next elite year is 2021, the year that Ruggs and Gruden decided to blow up the news. A lot of drama in the Raiders locker room and Raiders organization. Bisaccia comes in. Carr steadies a ship, throws for 4,800 yards, leads the Raiders to a 10-7 record, and a eventual loss to the Bengals in the playoffs. And now the third elite year is looking like it's going to be this year. So the only thing that's Carr missing right now is a playoff win. And if I think that Derek Carr is this elite quarterback, and if he's 2021 or 2016 Derek Carr, I think the Saints are a playoff lock, in my opinion.
Yeah, let's move on though. Sticking in the division, Carr's an early MVP favorite as of the first 2 weeks. I think so is Baker Mayfield, the way he's kind of been rolling. Because you said Baker Mayfield has that roller coaster year over the weeks. We've been, before the NFL season started. And then I'm going to throw in the Falcons in there as well with a big Monday night win. That division as a whole is going to be tough. But Tampa Bay avenged their playoff loss. After upsetting the Eagles in the playoffs, they lose to the Lions, avenge that. And then, Baker Mayfield's balling out. Chris Godwin had himself a game that day.
Yeah, so Baker Mayfield was obviously incredible in week 1. It took a step back in terms of that performance against the Lions, but it's going to happen when you're playing a way better team because the first week was against the Commanders. But overall, Baker, I think the best thing that Baker's doing right now, even though he did throw, I think, a pick, is he's really taking care of the football. And that's why he did really well last year as well. And that was his biggest issues, right, in Cleveland and then obviously in Carolina. Turnovers were a big factor in Baker's game. And him limiting that just already makes him a better player than he was in Cleveland and in Carolina. And that's with him not doing these incredible throws, right? And Chris Godwin, again, absolutely incredible. And when Baker did need to make the throws, he did make those throws. For example, that 41-yard reception touchdown for Chris Godwin. And I think if the continuity, the chemistry is there, and the loss of Dave Canales is not really affecting him too much right now. And overall, this team is just, they're back together. They know what's up. The system's there. They know what they need to do, and they played with everyone before, right? So there's no issues here in this team in terms of chemistry, locker room wise, and that's showing, in my opinion, on the field.
So I'll go on the Falcons very quickly because you said everything perfect for the Bucs. This division is proving not to be the worst division in football outside of one team. This is kind of like that an AFC East type thing. The way it's going, obviously with the injuries there, it might be surpassing that a little bit. This is like last year's AFC South in a sense, that was supposed to be the garbage division to now gonna be a very competitive division because the Atlanta Falcons, yes, a brutal loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers, but another common thing between the three teams, they beat what are considered to be elite teams, Super Bowl contender type teams, right? Like I said, the Cowboys lost to the Saints, the Eagles lost to the Falcons, the Detroit Lions lost to the Buccaneers, and Atlanta, what we wanted to see to steady the ship, Kirk Cousins. Fourth quarter, you said it last week on our preview that, he's not really good at primetime, especially Monday night. He clearly proved that wrong. Drake London stepped up big late. Yes, we want to see more consistency between the young guys. Obviously, Darnell Mooney and Drake London played well, but we need to see a little bit better of Bijan. I mean, he's still fine.
Still got 97 yards.
Kyle Pitts.
Still got 97 yards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I'm saying Kyle Pitts, right? So this division as a whole, we'll wrap it up here before we go to the next one. It's going to be interesting to watch, especially, like I said, when the interdivisional matchups are going to get going.
I feel like the way that one of these teams loses the division is like how last year one of these teams just lost to the Panthers, and I think it was the Falcons.
Yeah,
and that kind of screwed them over.
But Falcons do have the easiest schedule, so for me they might still have the slight edge.
Yeah,
but let's move on to another division we need to talk about because this division was supposed to be one of the better divisions, and there's a lot of question marks because as a whole the NFL has way too many injuries going on. It's the NFC West. Let's start off with the best team that was supposed to be the best team that still is the best team with the San Francisco 49ers. Christian McCaffrey is now on the IR, so another 4 games missed, plus on top of this, that's 6 games, right? It's not retroactive. It's going to be 4 more. That's how the IR thing works.
Was it 4 before? Was he put on the IR before the game?
No. I don't know if he was, but either way, he's missing at least 4 games. And then let's go to Deebo Samuel will be missing a couple of games as well. So a lot of pressure is going to come down to Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle there.
And then obviously you moving on to the Rams. O-line's already battered.
This is what you expected last year to happen.
Which means Stafford is going to start getting battered.
He's already battered a little bit.
Nakua's already out. Cup's already questionable. And the offense which was supposed to carry is going to now a team that's need to rely on their defense that doesn't have Aaron Donald anymore. And Raheem Morris as well. So right now, the 2 best teams in the division are battered right now. And then who's that opening a door for?
Both the Seahawks and the Cardinals. So
I've been shitting on the Seahawks.
I'll be honest with you. Yeah, you have been. But I'll be honest with you, like how you were the Rams last year. The Rams might be coming to last with how decimated they are. Like they lost their left guard, I want to say. I forgot his name.
Jonah Jackson.
Right? Like I said, you lost last year. You at least had Puka Nacua emerge. Who's going to emerge this year?
No one.
You lost both of
the guy who emerged for you was already injured.
Exactly. And then Cooper Kupp got hurt now, right? So for me, this opens the door for Seattle. Yes, they played Denver. They handled business. Struggled in the first half of that game. But, this showed they could win a tough game against New England, who are showing that they're not going to be a terrible team, as we mentioned last week, because like their defense and their run game is insane. Even with a pretty bad O-line, even D-line, but O-line especially, Geno is passing the ball well.
Yeah,
right? And we highlighted Christian Gonzalez.
Exactly. DK Metcalf played really well.
DK Metcalf played really well as well. So like the way the Seahawks are going, yes, they need to fix their line issues on both sides. And if they could get that figured out, they might challenge for second. But I'll pass it on to you in a second here because I know you want to talk about this wide receiver and quarterback duo. My team that I was high on, and you were kind of too, but more so me, but then I kind of stayed with them last place for obvious reasons. The team that battered the Rams, the Cardinals, Kyler Murray and Mark, this is the reason why I was high on them, because of this duo. And I'll let you elaborate a little bit more.
Yeah, so this duo, the biggest effectiveness of this duo, which lacked in week 1, is that Marvin Harrison only had 3 targets. This dude got 4 targets in the first quarter, turned out to be 4 receptions, 130 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
This dude is the complete package. He has the route running ability to be in the slot. He has the height to win contested balls. He has the speed to be a deep threat. And we all know how insane Marvin Harrison Jr. is. But the fact that you have a guy who can get open with a guy who could buy 8 seconds of time in the pocket when Kyler Murray, it's going to be ropes for teams or cornerbacks trying to defend this duo right here, because this is what we expected in week 1. And honestly, the lack of targets, sometimes, like, I think with Kyler, just not trust. I don't think he trusted Marvin Harrison in the first week that way he trusted this week, because that first touchdown pass, it was a good throw, don't get me wrong, great ball, but Marvin had to go up and get that, right? And I felt like there was enough of that in week 1, and if there was, the Bills would have lost that game.
The second
Cardinals should have won.
The second touchdown was he bought the time and Marv got open. He made a Superman play at the end to get the touchdown, but he still got it deep, right? And listen, I'm high on Kyler Murray. You know this. I'm a huge fan of Kyler Murray. I believe he has the potential to be a top 10 quarterback in this league, and he's showing that as long as he's healthy. That's what has been the biggest issue. And hopefully the O-line keeps him up, because I will not be surprised if they end up finishing second. Same thing with the Seahawks. I will not be surprised if they end up finishing second.
This offense,
because the Rams are definitely heavily battered.
This offense has been so fun because McBride's been doing his thing as well.
Yeah.
James Conner is getting his touchdowns. Michael Wilson is actually stepping up to be a solid wide receiver too. I just feel like as long as the chemistry gets built there, and I think you just got to put the trust in Marvin Harrison Jr. Right?
And the defense,
he's a rookie, but like he's more than a rookie. He's shown in week 2. He's shown in week 2 that you could just chuck the ball to this guy and he will make a play.
Kyler, what lets him down is too much scramble ability, right? That's what caused the week 1 misses on Marv or whoever else was available.
And the big issue with scrambling too much is that because you're scrambling, your eyes down the field get taken away.
Yeah,
because you're so focused on not getting sacked, which screwed over
the
downside,
games.
which is a downside of scrambling.
Yeah.
So I know you're trying to make a play and all that stuff, and he is one of the best at buying time. But that is the only one downside, because Marvin could get hit. Like if your O-line gives you 2 seconds, Marv could get open in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
As well. But as long as Gannon's defense could try to keep the ship steady, and honestly, they did not terrible last year for how bad of a group it is, led by Budda Baker. If Gannon could keep this defense steady, I think this team could sneak into a wild card spot.
I might, depending on how the season goes.
But overall, at the end of the day, I don't even with a battered 49ers team, I still think the Niners are the best.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. How much of a chance are you giving them to go overtake them? But no, I was about to end it off by saying who knows? I might have to back out of my word from the Bears and put one of these 2 teams. Well, obviously the South teams as well, but one of these 2 teams in contention over that, because obviously it's early goings for Caleb Williams right now, but. Yeah, no, this. Yeah, this is definitely one of the fun duos to watch in the league, because we know Kyler Murray is a really good quarterback when healthy and in those plays.
100%.
But let's switch over to some struggling teams here, and both teams are 0-2. They're both division rivals. So the question is, which one is more concerning for you? Is it the Cincinnati Bengals, who lost to the Chiefs in this game? And I think this will answer the question on its own, because the Baltimore Ravens are 0-2, who did lose to the Chiefs in week 1, lost to the Las Vegas Raiders on a comeback. So
the thing is this: both teams lost to the reigning defending champions, and both teams lost to a shitty team.
Yeah.
So it's fair. Like at the end of the day, I think both teams should be 1-1, right? That's just how it's supposed to be. But I'm gonna stick with the Bengals right now, and the reason being is that they're just inability to handle business, right? The Patriots was a free win, right? And you're going into Chiefs. The fact that you're going into Kansas City to play Kansas City 0-1, just
with a lot of trash talk beforehand, Burrowhead and all that too,
and all that stuff is just such a concern, because at the end of the day, obviously it didn't turn out to be a guaranteed win, and people obviously going to complain about the flags and stuff. But I think that was a PI at the end.
Yeah.
But overall, it just their inability to handle business in terms of they need a little bit of Miami Dolphins in them in terms of beat up on the easy teams, right? You have the ability to beat good teams. Like you were in there. On a couple mistakes here and there, you should have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs in week 2. And just because of your inability to handle these easy games, kind of puts you in a spot way tougher that in these big games you have to win. And they've done that before, but teams are better now, right? And the AFC is tougher than it has ever been, in my opinion. And with teams like Texans on the rise and all these guys, and your division being so tough, it's just like playing with fire I think it might hurt them this year, in my opinion.
I won't say the Chiefs was an easy one, but they were there to win the game, right? Like late on.
I think they commit a couple mistakes here and there. Like
for sure.
Like Chase threw his tantrum.
Like that pick by Britt was amazing, right? Cam Taylor Britt.
Yeah, and then obviously the fumble 6.
Yeah, well. That screwed it, right?
A couple mistakes.
But here, I'm gonna use your words against you, and only in this reason, because you've always said they always done this in September.
Yeah.
And I've always said that like this can't be the case, but I'm gonna still stick with that logic because at the end of the day, we've kind of seen them do it before. Whereas with the Ravens, they have a lot more pressure than the Bengals. Bengals have pressure because we've also been saying that they keep riding on that one Super Bowl appearance and the one the following year when they went to the championship game.
Those 2 years, yeah.
Yeah. The Ravens are more because like listen, Lamar has the narrative of he's not an elite quarterback, right? Obviously, me and you are not in that boat. We think he's a good quarterback and he has to show it in the playoff times. And right now, losing like that. Now, granted, Max Crosby, in my opinion, not even just a defensive player, underrated defensive player. He's the most underrated player in the NFL. The way he was decimating the one hit he got on Lamar Jackson. I'm saying the Ravens are more concerned because their schedule is also way harder, right? Bengals schedule isn't as hard as the Ravens. And to your point, we have seen them before. And the Ravens also had a little bit more. Yes, the Bengals lost Brian Callahan, but the Ravens lost Mike McDonald as well.
Yeah, so defensively, they allowed 20 plus points in both games. Another big issue is the offensive line group as well, which led to Max Crosby just absolutely destroying Lamar Jackson as well.
A stat before we move on, though. So this is obviously it's on a Colts page because it applies to every 0-2 team. It's worth noting that since 2015, 74 NFL teams. This is, by the way, from James Boyd of New York Times or something. 74 NFL teams have started 0-2 since 2015. Only 8 have made the playoffs, which is 10.8%. Obviously, these two teams have to follow that trend. Last year, Houston did it. We'll see what other teams do.
Bengals done it multiple times.
Who do I trust more? I probably rely on Baltimore just because they're the better team still, in my opinion. But yeah, so it's still, based on statistics, it's still very, very tough. Only single digits have done that.
That statistic is a little bit skewed because you're in the toughest division of football as well. So fair. It's gonna be an even tougher challenge for the Ravens and Bengals to figure it out.
But sticking with another team in that division we got to talk about because they surprised us like the Saints, but their schedule being a little bit worse, is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Big week 1 win over the Falcons though, because that was one of our teams. But obviously the Broncos, that was a given in my opinion. Listen, we said it in the tier list video. Their defense is enough to get them to a Super Bowl contender. Their offense was the opposite end of the spectrum. And so far, Justin Fields has not let them down. Yes, I still think their offense needs to pick it up a little bit more because you haven't played the elite teams yet, and that will determine where you need to have more than one passing touchdown in the first 2 weeks to win games.
Don't get me wrong, like obviously the offense needs to play better, but in terms of like, I think Fields is the answer in my opinion, and what Fields provide that Pickett and Trubisky and all these guys, I think Fields provides that stability, and him being such a dynamic quarterback in terms of being a threat on the run, and he has still the ability to chuck a deep ball down the field as well, which is going to help George Pickens because he's one of the best contested catch receivers in the league. And that's probably what they're solely going to rely on their offense. Obviously,
a little bit with the run game.
Run game and defense is their main core. I think as long as Fields does what he does and does what he's doing in terms of not hurt the team and put the defense in a bad position, I think he has the ability to steady the ship. And obviously, we know that Fields is a talented quarterback, and him being able to rush as well, and in my opinion, way better than the old man Russell Wilson. And no offense to Russell Wilson, I think Fields is an answer. You have to stick with Fields here, and I think I think Fields could be their starting quarterback next year as well, personally.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But I do want to ask you this. TJ Watt, obviously early depoy. Is he in the MVP race for you right now as well? I think you have to put him in the race.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, you could put like
he's a new Aaron Donald right now.
he is basically Aaron Donald right now.
Yeah.
The biggest concern with TJ Watt is injuries.
Yeah.
And in terms of him not being on the field is what honestly hurt him the most in terms of winning these awards. And as long as TJ Watt's healthy, the Steelers defense is going to be good, along with Minkah Fitzpatrick as well. And because of that, wherever, like, I don't know how this guy times his snaps so perfectly to get, especially in the Atlanta Falcons game. It's just incredible. And yeah, this guy is the new Aaron Donald of the league, the new best defensive player in the league. And yeah, early depoy, early MVP conversation is 100% valid.
All right, here he is. It's our squad. I'm not going to ramble too much here. The reason why we're not talking about this team because it's our team, but the horrible run defense from the first 2 weeks, allowing 200 plus yards in each game, almost giving the Packers their franchise record essentially. Fixed it in the second half a little bit, but yeah, that's my concern number one. So if I were to do an overreaction for this, Gus Bradley's got to go, and if this continues, Chris Ballard's got to go for me, because there's no reason why you did not address the defense as a whole properly, especially you brought back all these guys, which I don't hate, because I like you said for the Bucs, it helps with the continuity. However, you still need to add more to it. The Bucs made the playoffs, the Colts didn't. Houston Texans made the playoffs and they elevated even more on both sides of the ball. The Colts decided to stay pat, right? So that's where I will talk about Chris Ballard later. But there's no reason why Gus Bradley should be deploying. One thing, Taven Bryan and Tommy Adebawore as a starting thing at times on first, not starters, but like first down, second down. Yes, Buckner was injured, but there's more to that. As well. Zaire also struggling heavily. Yeah,
heavily. For a guy who actually talked a lot of shit in the offseason as well. But in terms of overreaction, Gus Bradley being gone is not an overreaction. That's just
we've been saying it for
that's just a given now, right?
Yeah,
he's already on thin ice.
It's kind of like the Saints.
Obviously, Ballard is in terms of because he had
7 years now.
He's been there for a long time. But the main issue with this is that like I just don't understand how you're in a first down situation and Grover Stewart's not on the field. This just makes no sense to me, because especially when the Packers are going to line up to run the ball without having Jordan Love there. There is no passing threat with Malik Willis or, any big passing threat, even though he did throw a couple good balls here and there. Overall, this team is just, I think they lost their identity as a defense, in my opinion. They just don't know what to rely on. And this D-line and the run defense is what you relied on last year. But that's not there anymore, and that's putting the secondary in trouble, and the secondary already sucks and is already injured as well. Jalen Jones hasn't been great. Juju Brents is injured. Kenny Moore hasn't been great. It just, from top to bottom, this defense just needs to pick it up in terms of coaching, scheme, and personnel as well.
I also want to flip it to the offense, though. People are going after Anthony Richardson. You got to keep in mind that's his 6th NFL game. I'm not saying he does not absolve any blame. He does deserve blame. He threw 2 terrible picks. But he's also not going to throw the ball to himself and catch it, because the amount of drops we've seen in that game by either running backs or pass catchers outside of maybe Alec Pierce. A.D. Mitchell's trying to prove that he's a first-round pick. That hasn't been working out so far.
Nope.
Obviously, Josh Downs coming back will help open the play up more. I'm not going to go too much here, but the Colts, there were a lot of teams, not just ours, but a lot of like Kay Adams, for example, and like Dan Orlovsky's, a lot of teams, jump teams to make the playoffs next year. And it so far isn't showing, and they're part of that stat now of 0-2. Now, thankfully, their division isn't the greatest, so they should win.
3 teams are 0-2.
3 teams are 0-2. They're going back to what the narrative was, the worst division in football. So, yeah, we'll see what happens next week, because it is the Chicago Bears, and going forward.
But the fair assessment for Colts is like you got to expect a roller coaster season.
Yeah.
And then the first week, it was like a good game. We were there.
For both games.
And then we fell off, and now let's try to see if we could pick it back up again. I feel like if we just get these games out of the way early, the more adversity Richardson faces now, I think will benefit him. And if he could figure things out, and this Colts team could figure things out by like week 4 or 5, I could see like a 6-game win streak incoming as well.
Which is what they
always do. I could see a 6-game losing streak.
Which is what they always
I could also see a 6-game losing streak.
Which is what they always do. But let's close it out here with arguably the biggest story of the whole week 2 week, and that is the Miami Dolphins. We were gonna come here and talk about how bad Tua performed, but now the storyline flipped to say is Tua going to play football. So those of you guys that don't know, Thursday Night Football, Tua Tagovailoa playing against the Buffalo Bills, goes in for a first down. Instead of sliding, crashes into Damar Hamlin. He goes into he obviously got a concussion. He went into that, I think it's a fencing position.
Fencing position, responsive thing, I don't know what it's called.
Where his hands go kind of like...
we're stupid. We don't know anything about medical shit.
Yeah, but like, I forgot that it was something on the fencing placement or whatever it was.
Like his hands like got...
So this is the second time that happened to him, and it's raising eyebrows that, hey, it might be time to let it go. The guy's been injured since Alabama. Concussion issues aren't a joke. We thankfully, from what we know, we definitely haven't had anything serious. Maybe something slight that we didn't know about. But yeah. And my thoughts here, obviously Miami is in trouble. They got Tyler Huntley. That's a different story. We'll address that during the previews of week 3. Listen, I think it's time he said he doesn't want to retire. He's gonna talk to his neurologist and all that. Listen, my advice for Tua, I know he's not watching this, but I know a lot of people are saying this. It's very simple. Listen to what the doctors have to say. Don't look for like multiple, what's the word? When they go to opinions.
Yeah.
And listen to your family, listen to your loved ones. And if they say it's best to retire, in my opinion, it is time for you to best retire. You signed your big contract. Yes, you might not be getting all of that guaranteed money, but you still get a big portion of it. There's more to life than football. And the reason why I'm saying this, listen, who am I to tell him to give up on his dream? But what I'm saying is like, listen, he might learn from his mistake and actually slide in the future. But what's going to stop from a guy doing a Vontaze Burfict to a Antonio Brown to him? Right? What's going to stop a random unintentional head collision with someone? Right?
Yeah, the biggest thing is it's like, you got up, you were able to walk off the field, right? But the thing is, you've already been stretchered off once, and the next hit might mean you're getting stretchered off again as well. So that's the biggest scary part. Be like, the next hit might be your last play ever, which is scary for a guy who has concussion history. Again, you can't have any loopholes in this, right? You gotta be thorough, right? You gotta be honest with yourself. The doctor's gotta be honest, and you gotta take the advice properly. If they say you could play again, obviously you explore that option. But if they're saying that, one more hit and you might be done, that just shows you it's time to hang it up.
Yeah, like that's our opinion. Obviously, we're not here to tell them what to do, but we're not the only ones saying this. So.
But in terms of the Dolphins, they did sign Tyler Huntley. Again, I think any quarterback that just provides stability should help the Dolphins win games still, because when you have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane as well. I personally, I was surprised with Huntley because I thought there was a better option available in Ryan Tannehill, in my opinion. And I thought Tannehill, a guy who's experienced, a guy who...
goes back to Miami.
It goes back to Miami. But a guy who's like, he knows how to play with good weapons, right? In Tennessee, like he let Derrick Henry and AJ Brown do their thing, right? And he just kept the ship stable. He just, provided stability in that position and made some throws here and there. Obviously, he did have a pretty bad year last year. But overall, I think if Tannehill came in, I think he has the ability, again, could be a rush threat himself as well. He could move around.
We have Joe Flacco.
They've traded a first round pick for Joe Flacco, but I thought Ryan Tannehill was a better option.
Yeah, I guess they're going in the hype that like Tyler Huntley has done it before. I mean, I know Tannehill has. I'm saying Tyler Huntley was a former Pro Bowler when he was leading with Lamar out injured, right? But that was a couple of years ago. That's like same thing with the whole Burrow Super Bowl situation. But
they got that similar style quarterback, a guy who can move around and like be mobile as well.
Need to figure it out though, because if they want to be in that division, because like similar to the Jordan Love situation, their season might be already over. Before
I'm just saying, if the Dolphins and Packers pull it off, LaFleur, McDaniel, Coach of the Year, right? They have the narrative to win the Coach of the Year award.
Point maybe, but
he's gonna have to be Opoy for to have a chance.
Yeah, that's our week 2 overreactions recap. Comment anything down below you guys think we missed or what you guys think of the stuff we said. Hit that post notification bell and that subscribe button for more videos coming out, more sports videos coming out as well. And yeah, we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Peace.